I enjoy being live. It's fun. It's fun. Hello, 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 everyone. Always good to be here. Friday again. Very exciting. Very exciting. Uh, sure said she's coming. Uh, Jessica might be able to. Don't know. She's at work, so we can hope. Uh, all right. And while we give them a second or two, let me refresh my screen and share and get it all set up and be ready to go. Lots of things to do always. It's kind of amazing. It's not always that quick and easy and simple. However, just taking care of important things, making sure everything is right, got to be right. This is most important. Sometimes little things are very, very important. All right, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And let me just share this and then we'll get going. Very exciting. Share now public. Yes, there we go. We've got it pinned to featured. And let me pin it to the top of the page as well. Sorry, John, to knock you out, but what can you do? The demands of the moment. Just how it goes. Just how it goes. All right. Just a note on last week uh, that we spoke about the distortions of guilt. And when Sher and Jessica come, I have something very particular to ask them on that. But just a little reflection on that. That when we understand in this context that we can start to worry because we are taking our guilt and we distorting it into anxiety and worry. Now, I didn't specifically address dealing with guilt, and I will do so when Jessica and uh, and also come on. I want to ask them because they particularly have things in their past that they may have done that they may have feel guilty about. Oh, hello, Norma. Glad to see you here. Most excellent. And yes, it's a little different for today. So, Norma, before I continue on, just have a look, right? See, look, right now, when you see it, it's like, it's nice, but it's kind of darkish a little bit. But see, if I move, look now, watch, and you'll see. Oh, look what's behind me. Great big waterfall, right? So, hidden moreness, in other words, hidden moreness, hidden moreness. So, I like that. Very cool. Very cool. Fun stuff, fun stuff. Hello, Norma. Always glad when you're here, Norma, and always enjoy your questions. You ask most interesting and excellent questions. Oh, so I just want to say that distortions of guilt is just one reason why we could worry sometimes and have anxiety. And it's not the only reason. There are many, many reasons. But it's good to be aware of that we can take guilt and distort it, right? Oh, dang it, sorry. Something is gotten in there that shouldn't be there. Anyway, so when we look at anxiety and worry in general, to not just assume this is a default behavior, it's automatic, but to realize that it's not necessarily so. It's neither automatic nor natural. No matter how much it seems natural, it's still a learned behavior, right? This is not something we come out with as babies. Well, at least I hope, I sincerely hope not. I haven't seen any. Well, you do get some babies that sort of come out of the box and they seem very fretful and disturbed and bothered. But I don't know if that's anxiety and worry. I think those are typically physical issues that are impacting on the babies. So, but in general, babies don't come out of the box anxious and worrying, right? All right. So to share a little bit on our topic for today. Show's coming in a moment, but so we'll just keep going here. Um, so just you and me right now, Norma. We'll have it all to ourselves and we'll have fun. Yeah, very cool, very cool. We'll just imagine it's a private session, right, Norma? I mean, I hope that's okay with you. Yeah. Let me just move my screen here so that I can see. Thumbs up. Yes, I agree. Yes, I totally agree, Norma. I totally agree. All right, brilliant. Just moving my screen so that I can see the comments and have the screen up for the session itself. On the online part. Now, for those of you who don't know, I set this up where anybody can join if they want to. And if you do, then I'll send you access to the online content of the course. You go through that, you do your repeat backs, you do your takeaways, you do the tasks and exercises, you build your own dictionary of power and so on, right? There's kind of a lot of things to do. And they're very necessary and extremely powerful when you do it. Because learning without doing, it's very, very difficult, right? It doesn't really happen. When you combine doing, that's when we really learn, right? So learning and doing, they kind of go together. Without doing, without application, in other words, it's all meaningless. You think you learn and you do understand, but it's a realization and awareness. It just comes and it goes, right? So this happens all the time. All right, so I want to just go through this. This is now what you'd be going through on your own and what you'd be doing repeat back and takeaways on and, pulling from this to add to your dictionary of power. Now, you don't see Sher and Jessica doing this because they do in other programs and courses with me, which we do in our private sessions. So it's just too much, for them to do this. But they come and they hear because there's still lots of value. And as you see, every week we have wonderful discussions and we really get into things. And there's a lot of moreness. And if you look at Sher's posts, you'll see how her posts are, at least the posts on sometimes Friday, but Saturday or Sunday are connected, are takeaways from these live sessions, right? She pulls a lot out of it, in other words, and this is very important. So she does the takeaways, but in a different way, and that's fine because again, as appropriate, always have to be flexible. So our focus today is justifications and validations for attention seeking. Maybe not the most positive topic here and aspect of this, but we've got to be real. We can't shy away and shirk away from awful truths, right? This is why in the requirements that I have from participants of my programs, there are 9 tasks of doing. I already mentioned quite a few of them, repeat backs, takeaways, tasks and exercise, dictionary of power, posting, and so on. But the first one is honesty and self-honesty. Without that, you can forget about it. You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to improve. Nothing's going to happen. You're just going to end up bullshitting yourself about all sorts of stuff, right? And avoiding stuff and not learning, in other words. So this is absolutely key. And here we come to a big, big reason for anxiety and worry, right? They are sometimes used, sometimes, not by everyone, but sometimes used as justifications and validations for attention seeking. All right, so let's see what the slide says. If we worry, we are good. That's the association. It's not accurate, but this is what some believe, because it means we care, right? And this is a very, very, very profoundly flawed association, right? It's a terrible association. As part of Way of Impeccability, we pay particular attention to association management. Almost all of our problems and anxieties and stresses and worries and hang-ups and everything that kind of goes wrong is because somehow we've got something inappropriately associated with something else, right? And that's the way the brain works, via associations. It's like tagging, right? Think of tagging on the computer. You write an article or make a post and you put the wrong hashtags there. Well, if I'm writing a post or an article on anxiety and worry and I've got hashtag industrial design, well, of course, this is going to be completely inappropriate. And somebody reading this like, what the heck is going on here? And if they don't realize it's inappropriate, if they think it is appropriate, this is going to cause all sorts of complications, right? So how we associate things inside ourselves. In other words, how we tag our beliefs, our ideas, our feelings, our sense of everything, right? It's how we associate it. It's absolutely critical, right? So in this year, we say if we worry, we are good because it means we care. I mean, I'm saying this to point out, this is a false statement, not accurate, right? But people believe this. So, it's not false as it stands, but the association is false. Thus, and I purposely left it that way. It's kind of ambiguous the way I've written it, because if you're going through this on your own, which hopefully, the ideal is you do this first and then you come on Zoom and you share your repeat backs and takeaways, right? So you're going through this on your own. I purposely put it in that way so that the participants of the program, they kind of have to think like, well, wait a second. This can't be meant to be that this is that if we worry, we're good. No, that can't be right. So then in the repeat back, and I'll take away, say, wait a second, I couldn't agree with this statement, or this didn't make sense to me. Surely you mean, and then then we get into, now you're thinking about it. So yeah, I'm a little sneaky sometimes in doing this, but that's the point. Don't just accept things. And, I've purposely written it a bit ambiguously. Don't just accept things as they are. Get into that habit of questioning, of thinking about it for yourself, figuring it out for yourself, thinking it through to the end, and practicing perspective shifting on it. Oh, I got a whole bunch of people in the waiting room. Wow. 2 people. Oh, the 2 people is both sure. Must be a problem with the connection. So I thought, wow, okay, all of a sudden I got 2. I thought it was 2 extra people. But I was just sure. All right. Wonderful. So this is very key, right? To understand, you got to read with discernment, with awareness, discernment, and that leads to understanding. And then you can start applying, right? So thus, worry and anxiety are justified and validated by this association and misbelief. And again, this entire paragraph is one that is saying what is, but I'm not condoning it or justifying it. I'm saying what is, right? And just because it is doesn't mean it's good or valuable or useful. No. In this case, it's most unuseful. Well, at least in the bigger picture, for those that do this, they think short term. Yes, they get some value. They get value out of attention seeking. Well, okay, I got news for you. This is not something that's long term very healthy for you. There's all sorts of problems, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Let me first say hello to Sher. Hello, Sher. Hello. Glad you're here, Sher. Glad you're here. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Oh,
Can you hear me okay?
Brilliant. Well, Sher, will you read this first paragraph for me, please? And give me
What?
your takeaways on it.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to see it first. Hold on, I gotta
I'm
see if
screen
I can.
sharing.
Yeah, I know. I want to see if I can get it bigger on my screen. There we go.
Let me make
Yep.
the window full screen. How's that? Is that better?
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Well, except now,
So to start.
no, no, go back to where it was.
Oh. Okay. Well,
Yeah, because
I'm
it
at
takes up.
yeah. That work?
Um,
Hey, Michael is here. Brilliant. Hey, Michael.
there.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Hello,
Leave it
Michael.
there.
Very good. Very good. Wonderful. Glad you're here.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So if we worry, we are good because it means we care. Thus, worry and anxiety are justified and validated by this association and misbelief. It's hard to justify wanting
Just that first
attention.
paragraph. Just the first paragraph.
Okay.
Just the first
Okay.
paragraph.
Good. Good. Well, yeah. My takeaway on it. Um, you just wrote my story.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah. No, seriously. I used to. I used to in the past, and it's something that I'm still aware of. That
Emphasis
um,
on used to. I'm going to
yes,
interrupt and pause here for a
used
second.
to.
Why? Because I want to emphasize what Sher just did. Sher has already made this a habit, a capital H habit, which is a conscious, aware, deliberate habit, to pay attention to how she says things and what exactly she's saying. So she didn't say it like, oh, and make it present tense, because that perpetuates things. She's saying, I
Huh?
used to. She's emphasizing that she has changed with her language. This is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly powerful and potent, right, sir? Huge.
Yes.
So
Yes, it is.
I'm
It is.
emphasizing this because it's nice feedback for sure, and
Yeah,
it
thank you.
just adds to the emphasis, and emphasis rewires the brain. So I'm not being sort of frivolous here, and I'm not giving Sher a pat on the back.
No.
I'm not trying to boost her ego. No, this is about emphasis, and also I'm highlighting it so that anybody watching can see, oh, that wasn't a simple thing that Sher did. If I don't say anything, you could just, well, all right, it's just what you're saying. No, it's deliberate, and it's a huge, great, big deal. Very powerful. All right, sorry.
It is.
So, okay, let's start
Thank you
again.
for
Say
that.
again. Say again. Oh,
Oh
my
no,
pleasure.
thank you for that.
You too.
So yes, anyways, I used to do this whole thing about if I worried about anything, it would make me a good person just by, just worrying about something by proxy made me good.
Yes.
Well, but that also exacerbated all of the anxiety. It perpetuated it. And then on top of that, then thinking that if I didn't show concern or some type of worry, then people were going to see me as a not so good a person. So
Yeah.
I just kept doing it.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
it's okay that we're concerned about things,
Exactly.
and I think that's probably where you're going. But yeah, there's a difference
Yes.
between
Yes.
worry and being concerned,
Yes.
or showing
Yes.
caution.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you are inadvertently making my point here, which
Oh, sorry.
that's no, it's fantastic. It's brilliant. Anybody listening to you can, well, sure, obviously didn't take that the way it's literally written, right? I mean, somebody who let's say some alien who has no clue about any of this. If we worry, we are good because it means we care. Oh, okay. Well, that means I should be worrying because that makes me good, and it proves that I care. See, and therefore, so in other words, I've written this kind of in a way that if you don't take it the way you took it, it's like, wow. So what are you proposing here? You're saying we should worry because it proves we care, right? So it's kind of written in a non-obvious kind of opposite way, and I did it deliberately to force some thinking about it, right? And that's what I
Yes.
was explaining when you came on. But your pull from it is exactly the intent to say, no, this is not a good thing. It's factually correct, right? Because this is how people believe, but it's a false association to equate worry with good, right? And associate it
Yes.
with. That's what I was talking about, associations. But your response, it so demonstrated that's not how you took it, which is great, right? So you automatically jumped to the moreness of it. But it's a little bit of a tricky statement, and I put it. Sometimes I do this on purpose so that it's like if you're just sort of swallowing everything that's coming your way, which I absolutely don't want from anybody. Don't believe what I'm saying.
Mm-mm.
No, absolutely not. Don't take for granted what I'm saying. Don't believe me. You got to think it for yourself. So if somebody's coming along with this and they just swallowing everything and not thinking, which is totally useless, right? Then they're going to
Right.
get the wrong idea here. And well, it will come up in the Zoom sessions and we'll figure it out. And then we can get into why you need to pay attention. You need to have awareness, discernment, understanding, and then you can go and apply. If you don't have those, you're just buying everything that's being sold. You're going to be broke in a hurry, right? And broke in
Yes.
more ways than one. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
that's a good quote right there. Yeah.
Hmm. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I like that. Yeah, if you buy everything if you buy whatever everybody's selling, you're going to be broke in a hurry. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
In
That's true.
ways than one. Yeah.
Before you
Break
before
you
you
up in,
continue on,
please.
I was going to say before you continue on, what module are you on in this so that I can
Oh,
follow
this
along
is
with you?
still on module 2.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Still on module 2, slide
Okay.
16. I actually want
Yes.
to
Got
go
it.
back. I want to go back one slide
Okay.
because overnight I was thinking about this. I was thinking of you, and all the things we did yesterday. That's not how I go back in the slides. It's not a page back. I need to just move the slides. I wasn't thinking. Anyway. Yeah, you see module 2. So anyway, it put me back
Okay.
to the start of it here now. So, but anyway, I wanted to ask you when it comes to justifications of guilt. distortions of guilt, right? So that was where we were last week. Sorry, I'm trying to go back there. Here we go. Distortions of guilt, right? So in this, Jessica's here too. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Because I
Yay.
want to say this to Jessica also. So this is excellent. All right, perfect timing, perfect timing, perfect timing. All right, we're just waiting for her to connect. There we go, connected. All right, brilliant.
Yep,
Perfect timing. You came right at exactly the right moment, Jessica. Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to hear, glad to hear. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Hello, Jessica. Hello, hello, hello. Are the guys joining or not?
No.
Not. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we can hope someday. All right. So I want to ask you both. So you come at exactly the point. I want to make a very profound point about distortions of guilt. Okay. So for both of you, I feel I can say with 100% confidence, since I've known you, both of you have profoundly, deeply changed. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Jessica? Yes. Okay. Now, this is a big deal. I mean, this is real change. This isn't just the idea of change, not just I want to change, but you behaving differently, right? And not only where you go into a situation deliberately looking to behave differently, also when situations have come upon you and by surprise, you reacted differently to before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Jessica?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. I'm laying a foundation here, so bear with me, right? I'm going somewhere. Now, in the past, for both of you, I would assume that, but based on what you've shared with me, there are some things back then in the past which you would have legitimately felt guilty about doing, right? Where you did not so cool things, not so ideal, not so wonderful stuff. Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Okay. All right. Now, the question that I want to ask you today is it appropriate and legitimate and valid for the you of now, the you are now, to feel guilty about those things?
No.
Well, no.
Once I've learned to accept my, my wrongdoings, my miscomings, things like that, the me of now definitely does not feel guilty. In fact,
Exactly.
I've learned a lot of lessons from it.
Exactly. Sure. For you?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you
No.
now? No, you cannot. Right?
Mm-mm.
Why?
Nope.
Why is it that you cannot? Because what I started with, that's why I asked you, have you changed? I can see the change really profoundly. And you also know this change, right? Now, if you are changed, truly changed, you are different to who you were then. Yes. And you both
Yes.
heard my poem, The Me of Now and Then, right? With the ghosts of the past.
Uh-huh.
Very powerful poem. Maybe I'll actually read that a little later on. But the point I'm making is that if we want to get rid of guilt, there's only one way when it's legitimate guilt. I'm not talking about BS guilt. I'm talking about legitimate guilt. There's only one way to get rid of guilt, and shame too, by the way. Both of them, they go together typically. The only way to get rid of guilt and shame legitimately is to truly, truly, profoundly change. In other words, and change is not just changing from one version of crappiness to another. Obviously, it implies change for the better, right? So to upgrade and get rid of the crappiness that led to that behavior. Now, the way you two are now, there's just no possibility of you doing that shit again. There's just no way. This is not possible. Cannot happen, right?
Exactly.
Jessica?
Yes, definitely.
Yes. I'm asking for your not because I want you to agree, it's the confirmation. In other words, I don't want anybody to just believe what I'm saying because I'm saying it. No, you guys are confirming it, right? And you're not doing it because you're agreeing with me, because this is what it is. It really is so. So this is a major, major point about guilt. The only way to deal with it is to change, right? You can forgive yourself all you like. You're still going to be guilty of whatever you're doing. The key is to change the you. Yeah? The you that was guilty is not the you that you are now. Two different yous, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
There's something that came along with that, with this change. And it kind of came to me this morning. It's really kind of ironic, actually. Here's another lesson from the you that's, dropping in, paying attention, to the anomalies. But I got to thinking about apologies and apologies to myself. Many times, if we make an apology to somebody, what do? But we pair it with an excuse. I'm sorry I did X, Y, and Z. And then we follow it up with justifying. However, if we do that to anybody or with ourselves, when we pair an apology with an excuse, it's not an apology.
Yeah.
All we're doing is saying, hey, please accept what I did.
Exactly.
So if we do that with ourselves, we're not really apologizing. We're not genuinely releasing that guilt. And any of those negative feelings, to me anyways, comes when I just simply accept that, okay, I am sorry that did happen. However, I really didn't know, or I'm aware now, but I will not use an excuse anymore of I didn't know. It might be true. It could be true, but when I pair it with, when I back it up with I'm sorry, but then no, there's no apology there. I'm not going to change.
Exactly. And to me, the only apology that really matters is to truly change.
Yes, that's it right there.
I don't care how much you say to me, I'm sorry. So bloody what? It doesn't make any difference to me. You can't change what happened. However, if I see you change, at least I see, well, some good came out of it.
Yes.
And I can live with that.
Yeah.
Whatever crap you did, if it led to you changing, my innate goodness says, if I had to be, this is the price that I'm paying. Well, okay, let's say I go and do some, really crappy charity work. It's unpleasant, it's miserable, it's horrible. I'm willing to do this because there's a big good in it. Well, I'm willing to take whatever the crap was if it led to you changing. This is a price I'm willing to pay, but only if the change is real, right? And of course, long-lasting, not bullshit change. So then I'm okay with it. And all right, no problem, and I don't even have to forgive you because now I'm happy and it all worked out wonderfully. And it's too fantastic, right? So yes, now, okay, I realize there's a range of degrees of things here, right? And some things are very hard to deal with and, extreme things. But for the most part, I'm talking about, if you have that ability to truly forgive gross, real, egregious transgression, because there is this real change, this is going to make you a very special and noble and wonderful person, right? Now, I'm not saying it's easy, not at all, but this is a path that leads us out of it if we were on the receiving end of crappy behavior. Of course, as the one of the crappy behavior, if you're going to forever live bound by your unawareness, this makes life impossible. It makes life impossible because you didn't do that deliberately. You did it because you were unaware. You may even have done it deliberately, but at the moment, at that time, you were caught up in stupid beliefs and idiotic falsehoods and really terrible associations and all sorts of crap, right? I mean, you were a total idiot and an arsehole and a knucklehead, not you, Nasha or Jessica. I'm saying just us as people, right? At the time back then, but we can't hold this to ourselves forever. In other words, if I live by that time when I was unaware, well, then I'm kind of screwed for my life because we start off unaware. We start off doing idiotic things, right? I mean, I used to poop in my pants every day once upon a time. Okay, I was very tiny. I was a baby, but still, see, I don't hold that against myself, right? Same thing. So there has to be a mechanism for us to move on past bad behavior, right? Inappropriate behavior. And the mechanism is real change. That's it. Real change, nothing else. Sorry, forgiveness won't cut it. Sorry won't cut it. Real change only will cut it. Right. Yes, Norma, it does somewhat depend on outside things changing, but the key is us, though. From a bigger picture point of view, when you see life as being all about the development and enhancement of awareness, right? Development and enhancement. You could say growth of awareness, but development and enhancement, right? To enhance your awareness and to develop it is a very powerful thing. So it's us. It's up to us. We are the agents of it. We have to change, even if things on the outside don't change. Yes. So
Yeah.
yeah, when dealing with other people, you can't force them to change. You have to
Uh-uh.
change to be able to deal with them, right? Whether they change or not, that's on them. I have to change myself to deal with them however they are, right? If somebody
Yes.
has they got a jackal or hyena nature, for instance, right? Let's just say, I mean, I feel bad for the hyenas. They get a bad rap, but okay, just for the purposes of the argument here now, they got a predator nature. That's who they are. When a lion comes up to me or a hyena and they want to eat me, I don't start, saying, well, you shouldn't be eating me. This isn't right, blah, blah, blah. No, I climb up in the tree and get rid of it or whatever. I deal with it. I don't blame them for wanting to eat me. Well, same thing with people, right? Some of them are just, messed up and that's how they are. I don't blame them for that. It's how things are. And now, sometimes you can maybe say, well, they did it by choice, etc., etc. But, well, nobody really chooses to be an arsehole. I mean,
Yeah.
they might think so, but they don't really choose so. And if they did choose that, well, then I have great and deep pity for them. It's like, man, do you? I don't want to. I don't want to be like them. So I need to change, right? I can't put my happiness as dependent on others. If that's their choice to be an idiot, well, so be it. And there has to be that ability to choose to be a complete and utter arsehole and an idiot. Why is it necessary? Because it demonstrates that we are truly, truly, truly free to choose. If I don't have the choice to be an idiot and an asshole and make mistakes, then I'm not truly free to choose. And if I'm not truly free to choose, my awareness means bugger all, right?
Mhm.
If I don't choose it, it's not awareness. Awareness comes through choice, right? You can't program awareness. It comes through choice, right? So this is a very important, very, very important point. It ties into a bigger picture and a bigger understanding. But to not get into too huge a big picture, I simply wanted to make this point here with Sher and Jessica, because they both are good examples of profound change and having had pasts where things weren't all that rosy. And to say that, when it comes to guilt, in terms of distortions of guilt, right? This is now sort of the flip side of that. We don't want to distort our guilt into anxiety and worry, because we can't live with guilt all our lives, right? That's the trick is, don't try and use bullshit mechanisms for trying to get rid of your guilt. Make the
No.
real point, which is truly change. That's the only way you're going to get rid of it, right? So it's not going to work trying to distort it into anxiety and worry. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to have the stress of anxiety and worry, and you're still going to have the guilt on top of that, right? So you may
Hmm.
think it
Hmm.
works, but it doesn't really work. So, okay, real change. This is the big point. Yeah. I really wanted to emphasize this, and you guys are such fantastic examples of it. I mean, it's truly profound. Yes, truly,
Thank you.
truly profound. All right. I mean, it
I
blows me
always love
away
that.
all the time. And the other thing that I want to mention too, just as a by the by here, both Jessica and Cher's case, almost, well, not almost, pretty much every time, right? You guys come on Zoom, we focused on something, we've been paying attention to something. Your lives bring things to you, shift, change. You get opportunities, you get gifts, capital G gifts, to apply yourselves, to apply your change. Yes? It's like the whole
Yes.
universe is working with you to
Oh
say, man, this
goodness,
is what you
yes.
focused on. It's incredible. Go ahead, Jessica. Go ahead. Go ahead. Please interrupt. No
Oh,
problem.
I was just saying, oh goodness, yes, that is definitely the case in my instance, especially in
Right.
my, line of work and life in general, and just managing my energy and my time and
Right.
standing up for myself and not letting people try to
Yeah.
dominate the
Right.
situation or
Right.
myself, you
Right.
know?
But in a bigger abstract point of view, you're getting people who are behaving inappropriately, right? You, Jessica, in your new job,
Mhm.
right? But
Oh
their
yes.
inappropriate behavior gives you the opportunity to practice your new skills, to practice your new ways of being, to practice your new understandings, your new awareness, your new bigger conceptions, your new impeccability, right? All of the stuff you're getting the opportunity to practice and apply. This is an incredible gift, and it's so appropriate always, right? It's directly pertinent to what you need to do. Take this point that we power conception that we had of humble confidence, right? We spent a lot of energy on this, a lot of focus on this concept, right? It's an incredibly powerful concept. We went into all detail in it. And look how in the jackasses that were being jackasses, how they basically essentially created and forced you to apply humble confidence. It's the only way you could have dealt
Mhm.
with it, right, Jessica? Too brilliant, right? So I'm trying to say, folks, if you're listening to this, if you are really serious, if you pay attention, if you make the effort to change, the universe is going to conspire to assist you in the most incredible, incredible ways to blow your mind, right? Sure? Sure?
Yes.
Yes,
Jessica? Yes. It's a
yes.
profound thing, a profound thing. It really
Yep.
is incredible. So, it
I
just, this
can
has been
say
going on. Go ahead, go ahead.
I can say for sure, especially from personal experience, that when Cher first started this, doing the program, I thought
Uh-huh.
she was in some sort of cult. But then when I started it, I was like, okay, like it's actually okay. Let's see if it works. And then now I'm like, okay, I have been learning things. I'm able to put it into practice. And if you are really dedicated, like I was, and like Cher and everybody else is doing this, it
Yeah,
definitely does work, because I'm no longer the pushover I used to be.
right.
I'm
Exactly.
also no longer the anxious person I used to be.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
And you're doing it. You are applying what matters to
yes,
you. You're not taking some belief from somebody and regurgitating it and just being a mindless moron, follower. No, it's none of
no,
that. So the
it
very
is my
opposite of
own.
a cult. It's exactly the exact opposite of a cult. Because you creating your own dictionary of power, your own concepts of being, your own new ways of being, ways of living. All I do is just add to it. I make the obvious obvious, and you take it from there. So you guys are awesome at this. Absolutely awesome. Um, I just want to say real quick, Michael, if you have any comments, please put them in chat there. We'll respond to them, or questions or anything. So I am keen to hear from people like Norma. So I always love Norma's things. So it's very powerful, very, very powerful, very cool. All right. So on our point here about justifications and validations for attention seeking. Now, it's not the most positive of points, but when you're dealing with this stuff, you can't always shy away from this. This is just awful truth here, right? Some people worry and are anxious. Why? Because they want attention, and they simply
Uh-huh.
use their anxiety and worry as a justification and a validation for attention seeking. Now I'm attention seeking because now you see me worry, and because I'm being good in that first paragraph, right? Supposedly because I'm worried, I can get away with getting attention because I'm disguising it as being good because I worry. It doesn't work, but that's what people believe, right? So
Yeah.
I'll start to read this again. If we worry, we are good because it means we care. Thus, worry and anxiety are justified and validated by this association with misbelief. Now, of course, I've written this in this ambiguous way, right? It's stating accurately what goes on, but it's a flawed what goes on. It's a flawed belief, right? To think that if you worry, you are good. No, it doesn't make you good. It just makes you a worry pot, right? You can do it because you're attention seeking and it's not good. But it's the appearance that's the idea. See, so don't worry because of you just looking to people to think that you're good. No, that's bullshit. Sorry, it's not going to work. Be really good. Don't be bullshit good. And if you're really good, you don't care if anybody thinks you're good or not, right? It's irrelevant. It doesn't. It's not part of the factor. Right? It's hard to
Right.
justify wanting attention for attention's sake. Right? I mean, if you go around saying, I want attention, I want attention. In other words, if you do what a lot of the birds that you hear chirping so wonderfully and happily, basically what they're shouting, hey, I want to get laid. Look at me. I'm wonderful. Give me attention. Okay. Sorry. I know it changes our perspective on birds, but that's really what they're doing. It's quite incredible. If we did this as people, that wouldn't really work, right? You can't really
Right.
justify attention for attention's sake. You got to disguise it. So we use an anxiety and worry through their connection to supposedly caring and goodness as a way we can get attention. It's justified in inverted commas thus and validates itself supposedly. But all they are in such cases are validations for getting us attention. doesn't mean you're good at all, right? It's bullshit. This applies in many, many ways, like hypochondria, doom and gloom, bad looks, bad relationships, all ways used to get attention, but not supported when directly done for this reason. So they're disguised via anxiety and worry. Yes. Look at hypochondria. It's a great example
Mm.
of looking for attention seeking, but they can't say, I want attention, give me attention. So they pretend to have all these, ailments and things that they suffer from and whatever. And it's like, dude, who are you fooling? You're just a hypochondriac. Come on, seriously, I mean, it's bullshit, right? So, and sometimes people will give you bad looks and they're in a bad relationship and all this, and they exaggerate it, and it's a whole big deal. You're just looking for attention. The issue is not the issue itself, right? So it's very powerful to be aware of this layeredness, that we can do things for subtle reasons. And I have to really just pause a second here. Somebody who is anxious and worrying may be going like, oh, I hope I'm getting the eye movement right, and like, oh crap. And they just realized that this is what they are doing. So I'm not saying that everybody who does this does so consciously. Some absolutely do. They know exactly what they're doing, like hypochondriacs. They know they want attention and they go do this. Well, not all of them, but okay. But when it comes to anxiety and worry, sometimes people will do it without realizing that they're doing it because they want attention. Now, it's not necessarily that they even want attention, but they caught up in a belief of should, which was, a
There it
couple
is.
of sessions ago. They should get attention because society pushes this down your nostrils every second of the day, right? I mean, you just get bombarded. You should be seeking attention. No, it's bullshit, right? But it's people who do believe this bullshit trying to justify themselves. Now they push it onto anybody. If I can convince everybody that my bullshit doesn't stink, well, then suddenly it stops stinking. This is the belief.
Right.
Not really true, right? So this is the idea that they're trying to do. But some people buy into it and they don't realize they're doing these deeply conditioned societal shoulds, like attention seeking. They're doing the right thing. They just, it's inappropriate application of goodness. But they also don't want to do it over. So they end up anxiety and worry for the wrong reasons. Yeah. So I'm just saying, though, be aware that you aren't necessarily a bad, crappy person because you're doing this for attention seeking. You may have inadvertently done so and come to the awareness through listening to this and becoming aware. So, yeah, you're right. That's kind of what mine. I'm not really and truly anxiously worrying, but okay. So just be aware that it doesn't necessarily make you a bad person if that's what you've been doing, right? Sometimes we act
Right.
on these deeper motivations, as you know, sure, right? I hear from your agreements there. It's
Yes.
very powerful. It's very powerful to realize how we are affected by shoulds. And they're subtle. They really shift our motivations. And when our motivations are off, our behavior follows. And everything that follows from that is off and is problematic and corrupted. It's incredible how that works. Really powerful. A nice example here. I must go back to screen share actually. A nice example of this is if you imagine a swirling, um, just swirling bits of things, and they're all kind of connected, right? It's like a little thing, and then they're connected to others, but they're all swirling around and moving about in different directions. And you take a pin and you take any one of those little swirling bits of things and you pin it down. What happens to the rest of everything that's swirling around with that, because they're all connected? Everything starts swirling around the one thing that you pinned. Yes,
Yes.
they all conform. They
Yes.
have to, because they're connected.
Yeah.
This is what a belief does. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if
That's
you
what we were
believe
talking.
that you should seek attention, your whole world starts revolving around this belief because you've pinned it, right? A belief is like pinning something. So be
Yeah.
very, very, very cautious with what you pin, because your life is going to start revolving around that. Yes. I mean, look at
Yes.
people, for instance,
Yes.
racist, right? Look at how that belief in superiority over others, because of course it's motivated by the insecurity, right? But anyway, look how that belief distorts how they see people. They start actually seeing the bad and all this, and they only see the bad. They don't see the good because, well, that belief has distorted their way of viewing. It's confirmation bias is a profound example of this. Fix one
Yeah.
belief and everything follows around it. Very, very,
Uh-huh.
very powerful. Again, distortions, right? That's what we're talking about here. Distortions.
Yes.
Don't let your anxiety and worry be such a distortion, not only when you're doing it as a justification and validation for attention seeking, but just in general, because you think you should worry. Never mind doing it should seek attention, but just because you
Wait,
should
what?
worry, it proves you're good. No, false belief. Go ahead, Shar. Go ahead, please.
Oh, Jessica just posted that she was actually called a racist today.
Oh,
Like,
wow. Oh, wow.
what?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Again,
so apparently that's what what we're talking about was in
yeah,
the anxiety and worry suppresses concern about someone else's shortcomings, or someone's
yeah.
shortcomings are no more than veiled superiority expressing itself. And today that really showed through, and it wasn't within the anxiety and worry though, it was about the whole superiority aspect of it.
Exactly.
And because
Exactly.
I stood up for myself and I refused to be disrespected,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was called racist.
Right. So in the superiority paradigm, which is all hierarchy, in other words, like if you look at, watch a documentary on hyenas is particularly good because it's inverted there, right? And you'll see if you watch a good documentary on hyenas. But still, so if you can't be better than the one who's higher than you in the hierarchy, well, what do? You pull them down. Now I'm relatively better than you because that's all that counts. It doesn't mean in hierarchies like that, you don't have to be good. You just have to be better than the one that's around you, right? That's it. Whether they actually good or not is irrelevant, right? As long as I'm relatively better than you. So in your case, Jessica, you come along and you being confident, you being sensible. And well, the person who's saying this is kind of a crappy person, right? And so they can't also be confident and sensible. So the only way that now they feel inferior to, because that's their thinking, that's their belief, that's their paradigm, right? You're not making them feel inferior. They're making themselves inferior because of a flawed belief. That's exactly what I was saying about this pin thing, right? Their pinned belief is they believe you've got to be superior, and it distorts their whole world. So what they've got to do is when you come along and you act moreness, you act sensibly, they're going to pull you down because you make them feel like crap, right? So, you can say,
Yes.
look, dude, you don't have to feel crap because I was being sensible. Be sensible yourself. It's not a competition, Making me less is not going to make you into a good person. It's not going to do anything for you, right? It's not going to work. So, it's a hard thing to deal with in others because of that pin belief aspect. Their whole world revolves around superiority, and that screws up everything. It's terrible. It's terrible. So,
Right.
so take it as a compliment, Jessica. It is in a sense, right?
You're,
Jessica, where'd you go?
I was going to say,
Maybe she's
I would.
busy dealing with the superiorist, and racism is all that. That's what it is. It's you feeling insecure because, well, you're not the best person. You're not a good person. You don't make any effort to be a good person. You're kind of crappy, and now you want to pretend that you suddenly all okay because you're trying to find others that are worse than you. Well, good luck with that. It never works, of course, but this is the logic behind it. Right? It's this idea that I have to be superior. And if I'm superior, I just have to make you worse. It's a terrible psychology. I call it shit pile logic, right? Because you pull everybody down into the shit pile with you, and eventually you're king of the shit pile, and you go, hey, look at me, I'm king of the shit pile. And I go, yeah, but dude, you live in a shit pile. Yeah, but I'm king of the shit pile. Yeah, but dude, you live in a shit pile. Yeah, but I'm king of the shit pile. Yeah, but dude, it doesn't penetrate. They don't realize that they're living in a shit pile. They're so consumed that pinned idea that makes their whole world revolves around them, completely distorts everything. Of course, they still deal with the crap every day, and it's not fun. And and so they suffer, and they don't know why. They always miserable, unhappy, angry, frustrated, all of the stuff, right? And they never figure out why, because of these massively flawed beliefs. Massively flawed.
Yep, and their unawareness to, the truth. It's just unawareness in general too.
Exactly. And that's the point of this justifications and validations for attention seeking. It's about awareness. Like I said, some know they do it for attention seeking. But so often though, and a lot of, I have many great, wonderful friends, or have had in the past, well, they used to worry in the past, and they were doing the stuff without being aware, right? They didn't realize they were acting on a should. When they became aware of it, then they changed. Like Sher and Jessica, right? Right, Sher?
Yeah.
Jessica? Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Most
So,
definitely.
it's not that we do this because we're being crappy. We do it because these are our defaults, and we lose out by default. We come into the
Yeah,
world,
defaults
and
to
the
should.
whole world tells you you've got to worry, you've got to seek attention. You've got, basically, we get grown up and taught to be bullshitters. It's terrible. So, all right, just so we're aware of this, right? And when you do become aware of it, you start to see the world a little differently, right? Now, of
And
course,
on
not so
top
for
of that,
everybody, but it's a big thing. Go ahead.
with worry and anxiety on top of that, with that stuff, and you're worried about, like, the possibility of, like, oh, I might have cancer. Well, that's the thing, is the whole thinking you have an illness. You can worry yourself into actually dealing with that and having that
Absolutely.
illness,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely. Yeah.
our mind is so powerful, and it can, and our body is too, and it can definitely start to create certain things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you were so worried about, and also carrying on that negative belief or energy of that belief, not belief, but negative energy of that belief.
Yes. Powerful.
It
Yes.
can do a
Yeah.
lot of damage to your body in
Yes.
general.
Yes. And we touched on this before. Anxiety and
Mhm.
worry can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
They
Furthermore,
can.
Yes.
Norma makes a most powerful point here. Huge point, Norma. Really awesome. Yes. She says, worry also a lack of trust. Now, Norma's natural, she asked it
Yeah,
as a
it is.
question. That's a statement. So,
Very much
yes,
so.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the lack of trust, it's a lack of trust in the universe, in the world, in life, right? When we
Mhm.
worry, we
And
are
in themselves.
insisting things are going to turn out negative, right? When mostly it can go either way, but you insist it's negative because you don't
Yeah.
trust the world, right? Because you don't trust the world. However, this
But if you
also
don't,
denies the reality of the world, right? Sure, are you here? Are you here now today? Are you
yeah,
here?
I am.
Right.
I am.
Jessica, are you also here? Right. I mean, you haven't imploded. You haven't been vanquished. You haven't been disappeared.
Uh,
Right. You here.
maybe.
Well, but my point is that, all the things that you might have worried about in the past, right? The fact that you're here today means that those worries were a bit unfounded, and you're in a good space today, correct? Right? So in other words, the worry was unfounded. The future turned out to be very
Yes.
positive, right? Exactly. So it's a good lesson to say, if we try and insist that things are going to be negative, we have a lack of trust. Have some trust,
Mhm.
people. Have some faith. The very fact that the whole world is here and we've got billions and billions of people, and the fact that civilization has survived all these thousands and how many ever years, right? It means that we can trust that things will continue, and people do survive. They do continue. They can thrive. Have some faith in the universe, right?
Right.
That's not necessarily bad. And look at your situations at points in your lives in the past. Would you ever have imagined that you could possibly be where you are at now and how you are at now?
I never
Hey,
thought
can
it
you
was
repeat that?
possible, but I hoped.
Exactly. You had that positivity, right? See, so that's my point though. Even though you were worrying, you still had some trust that it could be possible, and you never gave up looking for it. And of course you found it. But if you had given up that hope, yes, well, yes, we come close sometimes, right? Sure, to giving
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, I came pretty close.
Right.
But
But it's a profound lesson too. The magic of it.
yeah.
What a
And I
lesson.
just,
What a lesson.
it
Right.
looking back, I don't know if I believed that change
Yeah.
was possible, but there had to have been a little bit of
Yeah. Yeah.
tiny bit of trust there
Right.
somewhere,
Right.
or hope,
Right.
one of the two.
Right. So Norma says, what about concern? Is that the same? It can be, Norma. Concern and worry are very close. Now, it all depends on how you personally interpret
Uh-huh.
and give a meaning to concern. Typically, for
Yes.
most people, I would say worry and concern are slightly different. In this, that worry is sort of just a blind belief that things are going to turn out negative, right? And you're not really doing it. It just is what it is, and I have to be worried. And it's a negative experience of a perceived reality. A negative experience of a perceived reality as a nice definition of worry. Whereas concern is generally a more valid assessment of potential risk,
Yeah.
right? Which is very different. When we're worrying, we don't really make a risk assessment, because the things that I see people worrying about, there's as much a good chance of it turning out positive as negative. I used to observe this in my mother when I was a kid, right? So concern, though, is to say, there's a chance that a legitimate chance that this might go negative. What do I do about it? At least for me, this is what concern implies, that you are looking to see if there is something that you can do about it. And if not, well, you'll monitor it, and that's what you're doing. You're paying attention to it, and that's your doing, because sometimes that's all we can do, is simply pay attention. If it does turn out to be negative, well, then I act and respond appropriately. Whereas worry, you're just fretting and stressing. Concern takes away the fret and the stress, and it shifts it into action, right? Which is risk assessment, paying attention, monitoring, and then you can go even further and add caution to this, which now, if I'm cautious, I'm going to also be preemptive, and I'm going to prepare myself. Should the thing happen, well, I'm prepared. I look at the weather and I say, well, the wind is blowing a little harder than usual. Well, I'm concerned it might be a hurricane. Okay, good. Well, now I'll be cautious, and I'll start putting out my sandbags and, get extra fresh water supplies, etc., etc., right? So this is, and we're coming to it later into it, that we first looking at the underlying causes of anxiety and worry. Then we're going to get into the solutions. And one of these is, of course, to be prepared, to be properly and appropriately cautious. We can be cautious without being anxious and worrisome. Yes. All right. Let me give a
Yeah.
good example here of, because we like to think of ourselves as spirit warriors, and a lot of people say, but why do you say a warrior? Isn't that kind of negative because it's violence? No, it can be, but that's not how we mean it. Because a true warrior will never fight. They're all about peace, right? And they will use strategy and every possible means, but they will, if they really, really have to, they'll fight. Like, if the murderer comes into your house and wants to kill your kids, well, and you have to fight them, you fight them. You have no choice, right? So this is what we mean by warrior. It's about utmost integrity. But a warrior is very useful, because a warrior, especially if you have to go into battle or a fight of some kind, everything is on the line. Everything. Especially if you're fighting for others. I mean, the whole world could be on the line. Your life is on the line. So this is like, there's no bullshit here. All right. So now, in the case of, say, a warrior going into battle, yes, they need to be appropriately cautious. Because if they just wild and abandoned, well, they're going to get killed in a hurry. Furthermore, the warrior that's anxious and worrisome, they're also going to get killed in a hurry. Why? Because their energy is being diverted. Their attention is being diverted by anxiety and worry, and they're not at their best. Yes. So if you want to deal with a threat like a warrior going into battle, you're dealing with a threat directly. You better put aside your anxiety and worry. It makes you less, doesn't make you more. Right? It diminishes you. So a warrior is a very good example. I mean, you can just think of it. Any warrior is all anxiety. No, you can't do this. It doesn't mean you're going to go in and be reckless either. You need to be appropriately cautious. Yes. You can't be too timid either. You've got to have some aggression and assertion. So you have to have balance. This is the core fundamental of a warrior, is balance. But one thing that is totally inappropriate is anxiety and worry. There's just no place for this in a warrior. Huh? No place whatsoever. So when you think of it that way, it's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Now, we, of course, in many battles in our lives, we're in battles with habits. We're in battles with unawareness. We're in battles with crappiness, right? As Jessica is finding out, right? Now, it doesn't have to be a fight, but it can be a strategic adventure. It can be a challenge to your spirit, to your moreness, right? It's an opportunity to practice and put into place all the things that you've learned, right? Yeah, some people don't have sandbags. Yes. They don't have saddlebags either, some people, but that's just the way it is. Yeah. this helping us help others. Yes. Norma, this is a big point, and I've got a whole program on helping without helping. We've been so taught to help, 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 but we don't realize often that helping is like the worst thing sometimes that you can do, right? Because you end up doing things for other people. And many charities, they foster and create dependence, the worst possible
Yeah, they
thing
do.
you
There you
can
go.
do,
I
right?
was thinking about that, about charities, about how
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
also
yeah,
charities can
yeah.
sometimes be an inappropriate application of goodness. They
Absolutely.
really can.
Actually, if you study charities, this is a worthwhile effort to make, right? Really do some
Hmm.
research on the big NGOs and charities. In this
Uh-huh.
last century, because of social media and blogs and posts and articles and stuff like this, you've got a lot more access to information that was never there before, right? Because people just didn't have the
Yeah.
means to it. I mean, you could write something, and who's going to see it? The person that you share it with, write the letter to, whatever. You didn't have you couldn't write a book about it because that wasn't available to the average person easily, right? So you couldn't disseminate your perspectives. But in our modern times, and especially with research and universities and all this, we are getting a wealth of information that was never available before. Now, if you go and look into the sort of philosophies of big charities, they have profoundly changed and shifted. And this is a very sad story. There are quite a few cases of people who ended up committing suicide because they were so devastated when they discovered that they'd spent their whole lives doing what they thought was good, and they were just making the situation worse. They actually created a terrible situation. A classic example is in Somalia with the warlords and all of that, right? What happened there was there was starving people, and the good meaning people came and said, oh, we need to give these people food. And what did they do? They arranged big containers full of food and supplies and wonderful, and they dropped the containers, right? Assuming
Hmm.
that the good people will take this. And what happened is the gang leaders, and they said, wow, this is very cool. And they went in and they just grabbed it all for themselves and started doling out these supplies as a means of control and dominance and manipulation of everybody. And they made them pay for the supplies. So they created this culture, right, that wasn't there before of the warlords, because they gave them the means to be in power. See, well-meaning actions, in other words, inappropriate application of goodness, they caused a massive problem because they were trying to help. Yes. So when it comes to help, we have to be very, very careful. Are we really helping, or are we doing something for somebody else? Are we creating a problem? You can't sometimes do things for others, right? It doesn't help them. It just makes them dependent on you. And this is a big issue in charity, and a lot of the charities, and there's many examples of this inappropriate application of good. They've changed the way they do charity profoundly. It's a very big deal, right? Very, very big deal. So it's very useful to be aware. But on a personal level, we can assist, we can provide suggestions, and we can provide prompts and stimulus, but we can't do things for others, right? They have to learn by themselves. Otherwise, that learning's not going to be real. And they may have a band-aid. This is you see this very often in the life coaching industry. People will come and make you feel good and give you band-aids. And yes, you feel good for a while, but then you realize, well, the band-aid hasn't treated the wound, right? It's just covered up the symptom of it a little bit here. That's it. I've still got a great big wound in there, or the illness or whatever, right? So you need to deal with the real problem, not just surface stuff, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
help will be that band-aid stuff, just making you feel good temporarily. It's like, if you've got, let's say you injured your knee or something, and you take painkillers. Well, you feel fine and you walk around on this injured knee. Now, the knee's not working right. Things are scraping and manipulating there, but you don't feel it. You actually are aggravating that injury by taking the painkillers. See? So sometimes we have to be very careful. You're giving people painkillers and you're just making it worse, right? So we have to be very, very cautious with help. Very, very cautious with help. The way to truly help is to add options, choices, expand awareness. That's the thing. Because, how many times, right? Look, show when we were going through that mind map yesterday, right? Where
Uh-huh.
I pointed out these things. And I said, were you aware of this before, or are there people that that are aware of this particular point and this one, and all the different points that are on there? And
Right.
well, no, but you are aware of it now, and simply being aware of it makes all the difference, right? So
Yeah,
sometimes that's
absolutely.
how we can be of value by making something aware. You know, I can't tell you how many times I hear participants say, you know, I never thought of that. That's a huge statement. Sometimes we just
I
don't
say that
think
a
of things.
lot.
And that's where we can be of value to say, oh, did you think of this? Or here's a power conception. Here's an idea. And if it's a self-evident sensibility, you don't have to believe me. It proves itself. It's a self-evident sensibility, right? So this is ridiculously powerful. Norma
I'm
says a
back.
lot.
But one thing I
Go
was
ahead,
going
go
to
ahead.
say really quick is that
Please.
once we are aware, or once, somebody else has uh shared with us that awareness, we
Yeah.
cannot be unaware ever again in that
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly. This is the magic of awareness. I have a really powerful saying here, which somebody was like, when they first heard it, they're like, they really had to think about it. I said, awareness is self-curative. That's exactly because
It
of what
is.
you were saying. Once it's in
It
you,
is.
you can't unaware it. It's there. It's working its magic. And if you're honest, you can't let it go, right? So
Yeah.
like this point about justifications and validations for attention seeking. The whole, it's about worry and anxiety. So the full sentence would be, or the full point here, the full concept is, worrying and anxiety are sometimes justifications and validations for attention seeking. Once you hear that and you're aware of this, if you're honest, you can't let it go. You have to say, am I worrying because I'm attention seeking? Wow, I never realized it. But now that you see, oh, okay, yeah, it is. Or no, I'm just worrying because I think I need to be because I'm good. Doesn't apply to me. But the point is that it's there in you. You can't undo it once it's there, right? You have to deal with it. If we are honest, it's why honesty and self-honesty is critical. I've known profoundly honest people who unfortunately weren't fully self-honest and ended up living really hellish lives. Yes. They ended up being inadvertent hypocrites. They didn't mean to be, they didn't want to be, but they didn't know a way out of it. It's a really terrible box. So be honest and self-honest. Absolutely critical. If you do that, when these things come your way, you're going to think about them. Yes, now that you mention it, I never thought of this before. Okay, well, I have to change. Well, I can't worry and be anxious anymore because I don't want to be going around looking for attention. I never even realized I was doing this. It's all bullshit. So now I'm going to stop. End of story. And away you go. Now, of course, just a caveat here, just a little, doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Why? Because of habit. That's why habit is our big enemy that we have to constantly deal with. So, that habit of doing this may come back. So you have to deal with the habit. Again, you have to have deliberate living. You have to be deliberately aware so that you can see the habits, know the habits, not get caught up in bubbles, etc. Right? Very, very, very important. So Norma says a large percent of people are ill because of worrying. Yes. Yes, Norma.
Yes,
Yes.
girl. Yes, girl. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all sorts of problems come from anxiety and worry, not just illness, many other things. But yes, and they're
Mhm.
all a kind of an illness, negative effect. Any negative effect on you is an illness, right? And Norma says
Yeah.
she often
So,
sees it when she's approached for healing. Yeah, you have to be very tactful with the approach. Absolutely, Norma.
mhm.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question. So,
Please, please.
as you were talking about being honest and being self-honest, um, I guess I don't know. This is my question. Reason being is because I'm kind of correlating it also in the sense of you can't love someone until you love yourself. So can you
Yeah,
truly be fully honest with somebody if you can't even be fully honest with yourself?
that's very
No.
hard. That is very odd. I don't know. Again, I'm very cautious with absolutes. I don't want to say no because,
Mm.
I guess theoretically it might be possible. I've never seen it. Let me put it that way, right?
But if
So,
you were honest
ex-
with somebody, that would just more like, if you're like directly honest with them, but not honest with yourself, then it would
correct.
come off more as an arrogance, as
And it's manipulation, right?
yeah, as
Right.
manipulation
And it's
and
bullshit,
being a
right?
hypocrite, things like
Right.
that. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I was kind of thinking bigger
Yeah.
about this, and I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it really stuck with me that
Yeah.
one
Now,
that one thing.
you bring up a fabulous point, Jessica. If you truly listen, capital H, hear people, you will so often hear them saying things to you which really apply to themselves. right? So they come and
I
tell
hear it
you,
all the time.
right. So that right. So they'll come and say to you, you know, Jessica, you really need to stop worrying. Or like in the case of the person who called you a racist, in all likelihood, they the one who is, well, okay, not racist, but they may be, you know, anti homosexuality or, you know, whatever, right? So okay, it's a form of racism. It's bigotry, right? So by calling you a racist, it's their subconscious making them aware, or some part of themselves. Through saying it, it's trying to get them to hear themselves, because they aren't honest with themselves. So the things come out in this way that, like, it's like some part of you shouting at you, hey, pay attention, listen to yourself. What you are saying, this actually applies to you. I see this all the time. It's absolutely incredible. So that person who called you a racist, because you know it's completely untrue and they have no basis for saying it. I mean, there's nothing that can make this a valid statement, right? Nothing. Now, the way it makes sense is that, oh, in some way it applies to them. Then that statement makes sense. Beside them looking for superiority and pulling it down. But it's when they're not honest with themselves, then the stuff comes out. Incredible. It's too incredible. Really potent. You were going to say something, Sure?
No, I
Oh,
was just, I understand what you're talking about not absolutes.
yeah,
For me, in my experience, could I have loved others without having loved with myself?
yeah,
No, not relationship wise, but I mean, like,
yeah,
okay, maybe that's not the right word either. Family, familial, yes, I love my
yeah,
children.
yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
You know, I love some of my aunts and uncles and my cousins, etc. But did I love myself? No,
yeah,
no. I tolerated myself to a degree. So
yeah,
there's my
yeah.
answer.
It's
That's
very
why I said
powerful.
no.
And this is part of honesty. It's a really great connection, self-love and honesty, right? Now,
Yes.
many don't love themselves. Why? Let me stop the screen share. I want to put full attention on this. It's a very, very, very big point here. Why? Because of a false belief that to self-love yourself means that you're egotistical and narcissistic and, you know, overestimating yourself, and it's just bad and wrong and all this. No. If I were to take you, Sure, and this is what we did yesterday with that mind map, right? But I put you on a universal lie detector. I mean, one that truly works, and you know, this is it. You tell the truth no matter what. And I say to you, are you a good person? You have to say yes. Can you be a better person? Yes. Are you a bad person? No. Does this make you worthy of being loved? What's the answer? Yeah, right? Sure, you answer instead of me answering for
Does,
you.
well, does it make me worthy of being loved?
Correct.
I was always I was always worthy of being loved. I just
Thank
didn't
you.
know it and I didn't believe it.
Thank you. Exactly. Why? Because you've always been a good person. That's it. Were you an unaware person? Hell yes.
Yes.
Does that mean
Yes.
that you aren't worthy
Also,
of being loved because you're unaware?
right. Right.
No,
No.
it doesn't. Because look,
No.
when babies come out of the box, right? Everybody goes to a crib, oh, and they love the baby. The baby's completely unaware. It knows nothing. It's
Yeah.
an idiot. It's stupid. It doesn't know anything, but yet you love it. So unawareness
Yes.
is not a reason not to love yourself. All the things that
No.
you didn't know, you can't hold this against yourself. You didn't know. Doesn't make you unlovable. So if you're honest, you are lovable. Correct?
Yes.
Self-honest.
I
Yeah.
think for me, I
Very
mean,
simple.
I
Very simple.
honestly, it had to be proven to me. It had to be shown to me
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah. Yeah.
logically,
Yeah.
why I was worthy of being loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because just to tell somebody that, oh, you know, you should love yourself because you're everybody's worthy, that doesn't fly.
Yeah.
I can tell you
Exactly.
honestly, it didn't fly with me.
No,
I
no.
didn't
I mean,
believe it.
exactly. Exactly.
I
No.
thought, really, where's the proof? Show me. Because you know what? I've been told all my life that I'm a bad person. So I walked around thinking I was a bad person.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, I mean, there's free choice, right? And you can choose to
Yeah,
be a bad person deliberately. It's a stupid choice,
right,
but there's nothing that says you cannot make a stupid choice. You absolutely can.
right.
So I'm sorry, if you're gonna choose to be a bad person, I'm not gonna love you. End of story.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yes,
How can I?
yeah.
If that's your choice, well, part of the consequences of that choice is that you're not going to be loved or treated with sensibility or respect or anything else. You're making a
I,
stupid, terrible choice. And this is
I,
how I contribute to providing you the opportunities or feedback on that this is a bad choice, right? Otherwise, if I did love you and you made this choice, well, how am I now being bad myself because I'm condoning, I'm contributing to this crap? Hell no, hell no. So this idea that, oh, we have to love everybody. No, I can love you, right? And I can love the fact that you're a human being, but your behavior, your choices, I'm not going to love those. Thank you very much. No. So you see, when we start to be a bit contextually sensitive, right? Since context has come up so powerfully, right? In the context of you being a human, sure, I love you. In the context of your choices and your behavior, hell no. Sorry. I'm not going to condone that. So we have to be very careful. We have to understand that we have to be precise about these things. We have to be discerning, in other words, right? You can't just go blindly doing things. You may aggravate the problem, like narcissists. You love a narcissist, you're just feeding their narcissism and making them a worse narcissist. No, no, no. This is not helping the narcissist. Yeah. So if you want to help a narcissist, do not love them, right? Don't feed them. Don't hate them either, because they sometimes will get off on hate also. Any energy, it's a black hole. Any energy you give to a black hole makes the black hole a bigger black hole. Any energy, including love, right? It's very important to understand this. It's a very, very powerful point. We see this all the time in the superiority paradigm with abusers and, terrible people that you've had, that unfortunately I've had opportunity to interact with. You can't give them any energy. It feeds them. Right. And a lot of people make this mistake, well-meaning good people. They love the bad people, the narcissists, for instance, right? No, you're just feeding them. You're just making it work. You're legitimizing and justifying their attention seeking, which in this case is narcissism, right? And other behavior. So it's very directly related here. Very, very, very big point, right? So we have to have appropriate goodness. Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead, sorry.
I can say, before I've got to get going here, but before I do, I wanted to just say this, that, on this topic of just basically for me anyways, justifying our anxiety and worry, a lot of that stems from not trusting myself. That's where it all came from before, not trusting myself. Because of should. I was taught to believe the people who were telling me that I was not worthy. So what I had to do is I had to unhook from should. I had to unhook from all of that guilt and actually just start really apologizing to myself, nobody else, but to me first, for all of that. So,
and a huge point. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just to say it's deep and it's involved and it does take time, but honestly, if you're willing to put in the effort, you can live without that anxiety and that worry in your life controlling it.
And at some point, you have to realize whether you want to or not, you kind of have to put in the effort, because if you don't, you're screwed. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not even whether you want to. At some point, you come to realize, I have to do this. And that's it.
Like I said the other day, I want
to make a huge point here.
Sure. Quality of effort, though. It's the quality.
Yeah,
type of effort. Are we just going to do it a one shot and give it up and say, well, that's it. I tried saying it to myself and I don't believe it. No, you got to keep trying.
There has to be persistence and determination and unbending intent. You have to stick with it. You have to practice. You have to apply it. You have to do. Right. And, when you get into it, though, it's fun, isn't it, Sher?
Yes, it is.
I want to make a really big point that you've recently really profoundly come home to you. Right? You can self-trust and trust both, right? Capital T trust, trusting the universe, the world, and self-trust without having answers.
Oh, that's true. That is so true.
This was a mind-blowing proof that you've recently gone through. Yes, you had an experience where you didn't have answers, you didn't know what you tried everything, you did everything, you weren't like just waiting and said, no, you were making every effort to resolve the situation. And it was essentially a situation that wasn't up to you to resolve, which in itself was a profound lesson. But also the other lesson was that you can keep on trusting, not only in capital T trust of everything, but also of yourself, despite not having answers or resolutions, right? Sometimes things work out, and they do. Trust, you have to have that. So self-trust is not about having answers. It's trusting in your persistence, in your determination, in your integrity, in your intent, in your respect for the world, in your responsibility, right? In your impeccability, in other words. This is what you are trusting. You're trusting your inner intent. You're trusting your goodness. You're trusting your willingness to make effort, etc. Lots of things to trust. Whether you have answers or not, totally irrelevant. Yes?
Yeah, and that's the hard part to accept, by the way.
I know it's difficult.
Which is doable.
Others, we're saying, look, I'm a nincompoop. I know I'm a nincompoop, but I'm going to self-trust anyway. Why? Because I make an effort to do things with integrity and effort and impeccability, right? My intent is to try and do and figure out. I may not succeed, but I'm going to trust that I can and could succeed. Not necessarily that I will. Trust is about could. Trust is trust because it automatically involves risk.
Yep, you have to be willing to take that risk.
When you're trusting, you are taking a risk. This is it. So there's no guarantee when it comes to trust, right? If we had all the answers, we wouldn't need to trust. If we knew what was going to happen, if we could see the future, we wouldn't need to trust. So understand this, trust always involves risk. Yes. So when it comes to self-trust, don't be put off by the fact that you might not be able to do it. You could. That's the point. That trust is based on this understanding that you could do what you are trying to do. Could, not will or would, could. Yes?
Right.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So be it. You know, you don't know everything. So what? Okay. Not the end of the world. I didn't know. I didn't find the answers. Well, too bad. This is tough luck, you know. Now, if we really trust the universe in those situations, there's always a moreness involved for us. Always. Whether we see it or not, it's always there. The more you come to understand this, the more you end up seeing those morenesses. You might not see it immediately. Sometimes it takes decades or a lifetime later you see the moreness. Oh, now I get it. Okay. But this is where our capital T trust is based on, right? We really trust that there is a moreness. So we keep doing, whether we know what comes or not. It's a very big point. All right. Before you go, Sher, I want to just go through this last slide here real quick, right?
Okay, I
On
got
the
about 8 minutes.
justifications and validations for attention seeking. Anxiety and worries also very often excuses for boredom. And of course, also a justification and validation for indulging in gossiping. Anxiety and worry, when expressed as a concern about someone's shortcomings, are no more than veiled superiority expressing itself. Right? So, all right, this is for next time. So this is, I'm just saying, you know, justifications and validations for attention seeking. You can do it because you're bored. You can do it because you want to be superior, which is all about attention seeking, like the person with Jessica now calling her Rachel. You know, they just looking to get attention, superiority, all this nonsense, right? And of course, it's based on their insecurity, right? And they know that things aren't quite right with themselves. And when somebody comes along who does exemplify some moreness, because they have this comparative mindset, it makes them feel less. Just bullshit, right? But that's the way it is. All right. I think we'll actually just end it right there for today. Jessica, you have anything to say before we go? Then we'll just all leave together. Jessica?
I apologize. One second here. Yeah, I apologize. I'm doing like multitasking here.
Yeah, I figured. I just want to say if there's anything you want to say, because we're going to go now. So if anything you wanted to add.
Honestly, the biggest thing that really, sent home to me was the honesty part. And that's something that I definitely can utilize. Being honest with yourself, but also being honest with others and how that correlates with each other.
Exactly. Now, honesty doesn't mean we need to be blunt or crude or rude or anything like that. No, there are many, many, many ways to tell the truth. I'm going to leave it on that note. I'm not going to even elaborate. You know, if that doesn't resonate with you, really think about it, right? There isn't just one way to tell the truth. Many, many ways to tell the truth. So we can be honest in a variety of different ways. And this is, of course, what capital D diplomacy is all about. That takes the end, the real sophisticated extreme end of that. But it's very powerful. Right. So yes, it's very powerful, Jessica. And you making that effort in your work every day. You have to be diplomatic with your honesty. Two things. You have to not only be diplomatic, you also have to be honest, and you have to reconcile and balance those two. It's an incredible challenge of sophistication. And this is what a gift for you. What a gift, because this is what we're all about, right? This is it. It's fantastic. So you're doing a great job at it. That's fantastic. Right, sir? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You too. You too. It's incredible. I mean, you guys are just awesome. I mean, I can't express how awesome it is what you do. Yes. And truly, you might not see it as a big deal, but from my perspective, what you're doing is a huge deal. To step way outside of yourself and change, really, really, really profoundly change. When you have a whole lifetime that says, don't do this. This is an incredible thing to do. Incredible thing to do. All right.
Okay,
Brilliant.
well, thank you for today. I think it was pretty awesome.
It's always,
I gotta
always,
jet.
always. Yes, yes. Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica,
Yep.
as well. You
Thank
get
you,
back to
so.
all your wonderful doings. I look forward to hearing
Bye,
more about
Jess.
it. Very excited. Very excited.
Bye, Sharon.
Okay.
Yes. And thank you, Norma.
That
Thank
sounds
you,
so
Michael.
weird.
Thank you, everybody else who was here
Okay.
as well. I know there were others who said they wanted to come, but they couldn't. Sandeep was here too. Hello, Sandeep. So brilliant. Brilliant. And Michael, yes, thank you to all of you for being here. All right. Bye-bye. See you next time. See you next week.